Allah is rewarding her for that intention already. So now, if Allah has not required of her to go until she has this added means, for her to now go when it is not a requirement is to put herself, in a circumstance which Allah has not asked of her. Allah is most merciful. He is already, blessing her for having the intention and saving the means, but just not the means being complete. So then why go and put yourself in a circumstance which is really of a questionable nature at best? So I would, support the view that, the scholars, that a woman who has not the means should not do so. Because this is an actual part of her means. Just like a person who hasn't got the economic means, people will ask also, can I beg my way to Hajj? No. Islam doesn't really, you don't have the economic means, you have the intention, it's good enough. But to go begging from town to town, some people did this. They would go, they'd leave their area and just by begging on the way, make it to Hajj, to make begging through Hajj and begging on the way back again. Huh? Quite possibly, My brother just suggested that a lot of people who set out in that fashion didn't make it,
It wasn't a suggestion. I recently heard the state, and my information came from, some years ago I had a travel agency in the States. And I applied to the Thomas Cook Travel Agency, which at one time was the largest travel agency in the world, for information on establishing my agency. And they sent me a book called The Great Journey. And it was the story of Thomas Cook and how they started. And one of the chapters was dealing with one of the ways that they were able to help the British government to gain influence in the Muslim world was through, at one time, I think it was in India, as I recall, many years ago when I read the book, about 10 years ago. There were a lot of Muslims who had gotten stranded in India, or a certain place in India, like a seaport. They've been stranded there for years. And there's been a lot of trouble with piracy and with many other situations. And it had gone on for a very long period of time. And Thomas Cook spoke to the government of India, and they offered to transport these Muslims free to an area where they would, continue on some time. And they were talking about how there were different towns and whatnot that had started by people who had started out begging their way to Hajj. That's very specific, very interesting, but only available through travelers. A lot of them never made their lives secure. A lot of security.
If you're acquainted with the things that are going on in Bosnia at the moment, about Hajj is almost, it's difficult to concentrate. There was something in the newspaper 2 days ago that the Muslims in Bosnia now cannot leave their house. Because leaving their house to go and buy food and food to their house is like suicide. Because there are bombs and rockets and everything going off, and when these bombs and rockets go, the snipers come out and they pick up the people who are running in the street. So going out to the house is like a suicide. So what this means is all the food is running out very quickly and they're living on water and sugar. And women are giving birth to babies in these cellars. And I heard yesterday now that the Serbs are setting fire to their houses. And if you don't come out to your house, how much will set fire to their house? And the Prime Minister of Bosnia has appealed to America politically. America and tell us we don't have any oil there, what do we care about? We have no strategic interest in it. And, people I know, friends say, there is no jihad anymore, they talk about Lama Tasima. There is no Matasima now, right? But we as Muslims will be asked when we go to Islam, what did you do? I went to a lecture yesterday to make a small donation, and the guy's looking at me saying, what? Where's he at? Hang on, let me find out how to deal with this guy who's unusual. God, you know, 1.5 million people living in Riyadh. I mean, how many people are going to actually to help these people who are going to salvation?
Well, brother, you know, it is the WAMI, you know, collected over 12 million riyals in a couple of weeks, in less than, you know, in a very short space of time to get money, to get food and supplies there. You know, there have been collections made. There have been major collections made. Huge amounts of money have been gathered. But the problem is that they cannot even get those supplies into to Bosnia. They're held up. This is also part of the report. So you know, it is not a question even of the. Of course, the money should be given, and monies have been given. Monies have been collected, but they are being stopped from being able. They cannot get from Croatia into Bosnia to get the supplies to the people. The thing has been cut off. What this requires is military intervention. This is what is really required at this point in time. But unfortunately, the Muslim Ummah is so scattered and torn apart that there is no cohesive means of actually dealing militarily, because that's what they should do, is to send, as they were, you know, prepared, you know, in the past, to send armies, etc., you know, on other issues. They should be prepared to send armies now to stop the Serbs.
The UN has pulled out as a result of having one of their representatives shot dead. Okay, so now there's no UN mediation or arbitration, you know, for this area. I mean, the things in Bosnia have really gotten out of hand. You know, and the point is well taken that unless Muslims see the need for direct, immediate military assistance and intervention, it doesn't.
It's not a question of just the food and that, as I said. The food supplies and that have been gathered, but they can't get it to them. It needs military. It has to, because the Yugoslav the federal army is supporting the Serbs in their, you know, massacre of the Muslims. Pardon?
That is the New World Order.
Yeah, this is the New World Order. Yes. It's not a question even so much of pressure on Bush, you know. I mean, they have the means to intervene. Of course, it would mean, I mean, it would be a heavy political move, but this is really all that remains. To try to put pressure, this is a long way around. To put pressure on America to intervene on their behalf. I mean, the Turks who are right there, you know, who are supposed to be concerned about the new Muslim states that are being freed. I mean, they're the closest. Actually, many of the people in Bosnia will be massacred are of Turkish origin. So if their own, you know, countrymen are virtually, in a sense, although I can't say all of them are that case, but many were of Turkish origin, you know, and then they're sitting there. I don't know what they're doing. How they can't move.
I'd like to make just an observation. When the Soviet Union dissolved, everybody amongst the Muslims, or at least most of us, were very happy. It was a great thing. And in a way it was. But one of the things that I observed is immediately there was some paperwork distributed, and I forget the organization was collecting money to build mosques in those places, Bosnia, Azerbaijan, and incidentally there have been more Muslims killed in the Azerbaijan area than there have been in Bosnia. I understand it's maybe 2,000 or 3,000 Muslims have been killed in Bosnia. They say over 15,000 have been killed in Azerbaijan, and that's right on the coast of Turkey, right on the border. And Turkey, I read in today's paper, said that they will not intervene. But at any rate, I think that what we're looking at,